Hello, my friends. Welcome back to StoryGlance History. I hope you are ready for today's story. Did you know that there was once a man who conquered half the world? He did this in only 10 years, and he was very young. Most people at that age are still learning about life, but this man was leading armies. He was crossing deserts and mountains. He was meeting new people and learning new languages. He never lost a battle, not even once. Can you imagine that? Some people say he was a hero. Some people say he was too ambitious, but everyone agrees on one thing: he was extraordinary. His name was Alexander, and today we call him Alexander the Great. This is his story, a story of courage, discovery, and adventure. If you want to enjoy amazing true stories from the past, please subscribe to StoryGlance History. Your support helps us create more content for history lovers like you. Now let us discover Alexander's journey together. Alexander was born in the year 356 BC. This was a very long time ago. He was born in a place called Macedonia. Macedonia was a kingdom in ancient Greece. His father was King Philip, and his mother was Queen Olympias. From the day Alexander was born, people saw that he was special. Even as a baby, he was strong and healthy. His mother told him stories about gods and heroes. She said that Alexander had special blood in his veins, and she told him he was related to Achilles, a great hero from old Greek stories. Alexander believed these stories. They made him feel brave and powerful. When Alexander was a young boy, something important happened. His father, King Philip, bought a beautiful horse. This horse was wild and strong, and no one could ride it. The horse was afraid and angry. Many men tried to control the horse, but they all failed. Young Alexander watched all of this. He was only about 12 years old, but he saw something the other men did not see. He noticed that the horse was afraid of its own shadow. Alexander walked up to the horse and turned it toward the sun. Now the horse could not see its shadow and became calm. Alexander climbed onto the horse and rode away. Everyone was amazed. King Philip was so proud that he said to Alexander, "My son, you must find a kingdom big enough for you. Macedonia is too small." The horse's name was Bucephalus. This horse stayed with Alexander for many years, and they traveled the world together. Alexander had a special teacher named Aristotle. Aristotle was one of the greatest thinkers in history. He taught Alexander many subjects. He taught him philosophy, which means the love of wisdom. He taught him science and medicine. He taught him about plants and animals. He taught him poetry and art. Alexander loved learning. He always carried books with him, even when he went to war. His favorite book was the Iliad, an ancient story about heroes and battles. Alexander read this book many times because he wanted to be like the heroes in the story. Aristotle taught Alexander for 3 years. These 3 years changed Alexander's life, giving him immense knowledge and curiosity about the world. When Alexander was 16 years old, his father went away to fight a war. King Philip left Alexander in charge of Macedonia. This was a big responsibility for a young person, but Alexander was ready. While his father was gone, some people in the north tried to attack Macedonia. They thought a young boy could not defend the kingdom, but they were wrong. Alexander gathered an army, marched north, and defeated the invaders. He won his first battle at just 16 years old. When King Philip came home, he was very impressed. He saw that his son was not just smart, Alexander was also a great leader. 2 years later, when Alexander was 18, something even bigger happened. There was a great battle called the Battle of Chaeronea. King Philip was fighting against other Greek cities, and Alexander fought beside his father, leading the cavalry. The cavalry means soldiers on horses. Alexander and his cavalry were brave and fast, helping to win the battle. This victory made Macedonia the most powerful kingdom in Greece. King Philip was now the leader of almost all Greek lands, and everyone knew that young Alexander was a hero. But then something terrible happened. When Alexander was 20 years old, his father was killed. Someone murdered King Philip at a wedding. It was a sad and shocking day. Suddenly, Alexander became king. He was very young to be a king, and some people thought he was too young. Some people did not want to follow him. There were men who wanted to take the throne from him, and there were cities that wanted to break away from Macedonia. Alexander had to act quickly and decisively. He had to show everyone that he was powerful. He marched his army to the Greek cities that were rebelling and reminded them of his father's victories while showing his own strength. Most cities decided to follow him, but one city did not. This city was called Thebes. The people of Thebes fought against Alexander, which proved to be a big mistake. Alexander's army destroyed the city of Thebes because he wanted to send a message to everyone. The message was clear: do not challenge Alexander. After this, no Greek city dared to fight against him. They all accepted him as their leader. Alexander was now the king of Macedonia and the leader of all Greece, but he did not want to stop there. He remembered his father's dream. His father had wanted to attack Persia. Persia was the largest empire in the world at that time. It was rich, powerful, and home to millions of people. The Persian king was called Darius. King Darius ruled an empire stretching from India to Egypt. Alexander decided to continue his father's plan to invade Persia and challenge the greatest empire on earth. In the year 334 BC, Alexander crossed into Asia. He took his army across a narrow sea called the Hellespont. This was the beginning of his great journey. He had about 40,000 soldiers, while the Persian Empire had many more. But Alexander was not afraid. He believed in himself and his men. He believed that he could win, and he believed that destiny was on his side. The first big battle happened at a river called the Granicus. The Persian army was waiting for Alexander, standing on the other side of the deep and fast-flowing river. Alexander's generals told him to wait, arguing it was too dangerous to cross the river and fight at the same time. But Alexander did not listen. He jumped into the water on his horse, Bucephalus, and his soldiers followed him. They crossed the river and engaged the Persians. It was a brutal battle, and Alexander himself was almost killed. A Persian soldier struck him on the head, but Alexander's helmet saved him. His friend Cletus saved his life by killing the Persian soldier. In the end, Alexander won the battle, and the Persians retreated. This victory opened the gateway to Asia for Alexander. After the battle, Alexander moved south along the coast, capturing city after city. Some cities opened their gates and welcomed him, while others fought, but Alexander always won. He captured important ports so the Persian navy could not use them, thinking like a strategic general. He did not just win battles, he won the war step by step. One of the cities he captured was called Gordium. In this city, there was a famous knot known as the Gordian knot. This knot was incredibly complicated. An old legend said that whoever could untie the knot would rule all of Asia. Many people had tried to untie it, but no one could do it. When Alexander saw the knot, he thought for a moment. Then he pulled out his sword and cut the knot in half. He did not follow the rules. He made his own way. This story became famous, showing Alexander's true character. He did not accept limits and found solutions that others could not even imagine. In the year 333 BC, Alexander fought his most critical battle yet, the Battle of Issus. King Darius himself came with a huge army to fight Alexander. The Persian army was much bigger than Alexander's. Some say Darius had 300,000 soldiers, while Alexander had only 40,000. But Alexander was a brilliant commander who understood the battlefield perfectly. He saw that the Persians were crowded together and could not move easily. Alexander attacked at the perfect moment, leading his cavalry straight toward King Darius. His soldiers were brave and disciplined, pushing through the Persian lines. When King Darius saw Alexander charging toward him, he panicked. He turned his chariot and fled. When the Persian soldiers saw their king running, they ran too. The battle became a complete victory for Alexander. He captured Darius's family, his tent, and his treasures. However, he treated Darius's mother and wife with great respect, promising them they would not be harmed. This kindness earned him the respect of many Persians. After this victory, Alexander could have gone straight to the heart of Persia, but he did not. He turned south instead, wanting to capture all the coastal cities first. He marched into Phoenicia and then into Egypt. Egypt welcomed Alexander as a liberator because the Egyptians despised Persian rule and were happy to see him. The Egyptian priests declared Alexander to be a pharaoh, a god-king. Alexander visited a famous oracle in the desert. An oracle is a holy place where people ask questions of the gods. The oracle told Alexander that he was the son of Zeus, the king of the gods. Whether this was true or not, Alexander believed it, and that belief gave him even more confidence. While in Egypt, Alexander founded a new city and named it Alexandria after himself. This city became one of the greatest cities in the ancient world, and even today, Alexandria remains a major city in Egypt. In the year 331 BC, Alexander finally marched east toward the heart of Persia. King Darius gathered another enormous army and chose a flat battlefield near a place called Gaugamela. He wanted ample space for his chariots and cavalry. The Persian army was one of the largest ever assembled. Some historians say it had 1 million soldiers. This number might be exaggerated, but it was certainly massive. Alexander had only about 50,000 men. Before the battle, Alexander's soldiers were nervous. How could they fight so many enemies? But Alexander remained calm, studying the battlefield carefully and creating a plan. The Battle of Gaugamela became one of the most famous battles in history. When the battle started, the Persians attacked with everything they had. They sent war chariots with sharp blades on the wheels, but Alexander's soldiers simply opened gaps in their lines, allowing the chariots to ride through without hitting anyone. Then Alexander made his move. He spotted a weak spot in the Persian formation and led his cavalry in a wedge formation, driving forward like an arrow. They charged straight at that weak spot and broke through the Persian lines. Once again, Alexander rode directly toward King Darius, and once again, Darius fled. His army collapsed, and thousands of Persians died. Alexander won a complete and total victory. After this battle, Darius was no longer a threat. Alexander marched to the Persian capitals, entering the great city of Babylon, then Susa, and finally Persepolis, the most beautiful Persian city. In Persepolis, Alexander took revenge for the Persian invasion of Greece many years before. His soldiers burned parts of the palace. Alexander now controlled the entire Persian Empire at just 30 years old. But Alexander did not stop. He wanted to go further east to reach the edge of the world. He marched his army through mountains and deserts, crossing into what is now Afghanistan and Pakistan. He fought against mountain tribes and founded more cities named Alexandria. He kept moving forward. Some of his soldiers were exhausted. They had been marching for years and wanted to go home. But Alexander kept pushing them onward. In India, he fought against King Porus, an Indian king who used war elephants. The Battle of the Hydaspes River was incredibly difficult, since Alexander had never fought elephants before, but once again he found a way to win. He respected King Porus for his bravery, and after the battle, Alexander made Porus his ally. But finally, Alexander's soldiers said no. They refused to march any further. They stood at a river in India, and though Alexander wanted to cross and continue, his men said they simply could not. They had been away from home for 8 years and deeply missed their families. They were completely exhausted. Alexander was furious at first. He went into his tent and refused to speak to anyone for 3 days. But in the end, he had to accept their decision and agreed to turn back. This was the only time Alexander did not get what he wanted. The army began the long journey home, marching through a brutal desert where many soldiers died from heat and thirst. It was one of the hardest parts of the entire journey. Finally, they reached Babylon. Alexander made Babylon his capital and planned new expeditions, wanting to explore Arabia and improve his empire. But then, something happened that no one expected. Alexander became sick with a severe fever. At first, it did not seem serious, but the fever grew worse. For 10 days, Alexander fought the sickness. His soldiers came to see him one by one, weeping because they loved their king. On the 11th day, in the year 323 BC, Alexander died. He was only 32 years old. Alexander's death was a shock to the entire world. He had conquered so much and achieved so much, but his life was cut short. No one knows exactly what killed him. Some think it was malaria, some think it was typhoid fever, and others even believe he was poisoned. We will never know for certain. After Alexander died, his empire broke apart. His generals fought each other for power, and the empire was divided into several kingdoms. But even though his empire did not last, Alexander's influence did. He spread Greek culture across Asia and built cities that became centers of learning and trade, connecting the East and the West in ways that had never happened before. He showed that one person with courage and vision can change the course of the world. Today, more than 2,000 years later, we still remember Alexander. We study his battles and read about his life, learning from both his successes and his mistakes. He was ambitious, perhaps too ambitious. He was brave, sometimes too brave. He was a brilliant leader, but also a complicated person. He could be kind and generous, but also cruel and ruthless. He represents something important about human nature, showing us that people can achieve incredible things when they believe in themselves and refuse to give up. He teaches us that limits are often only in our minds, but he also reminds us that even the greatest person cannot live forever. Even the most powerful king must face the end of his journey. Alexander's story is a story of adventure and discovery. It is a story about dreaming big and working hard, one that has inspired millions of people throughout history. From a young prince in Macedonia to the ruler of the known world, Alexander lived an extraordinary life. He traveled to places no Greek had ever seen before, met people from different cultures, learned from them, and shared his own knowledge. His journey was not perfect. He made mistakes, lost friends, and faced immense dangers, but he never stopped moving forward. That is what made him great. I hope you enjoyed this journey through history with me today. Stories like Alexander's help us uncover the past, teaching us about life, courage, and human achievement. If you found this story interesting and helpful, I would be very grateful if you could like this video. It lets me know that these stories are valuable to you. And if you want to hear more stories from history told in a simple, engaging style, please subscribe to this channel. Every subscription helps us create more content for history enthusiasts like you. You can also leave a comment below to tell me what you think about Alexander. Was he a hero? Was he too ambitious? I would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for listening today, my friends. I wish you peace and success on your own journey of discovery. Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and keep discovering the amazing stories of our world with StoryGlance History. Goodbye for now.